Hello, hello, and welcome. Is my sound working? Sure is. Fantastic. Okay, great, awesome. Here we are. Very first game development stream for Grimlight Games. Yeah. So I'll give you guys a quick little background, if you have not seen it from any of my about sections. Although I don't think the information is very deep, so let's not make a whole tangent about it. I am an aspiring game developer. I've been playing games since I was knee-high to a grasshopper back in the days, playing regular Nintendo and Atari with my father growing up. It was a great time, remember it fondly. And now, here we are, many, many, many years later, and I'm trying to recreate some of that nostalgia. I love pixel art. A lot of what I've been focused on is trying to develop in that realm. Now, where am I at in my developer journey? So I am still very, very much a novice. I have been teaching myself in my spare time and trying to figure all this stuff out as I go. I've got a lot of really great guided tutorials that I've been working on, ones that I've completed. I do have a couple of those learning projects that I did up on my itch.io. I'll make sure all that's linked here on the channel and on the YouTube and all that. But we're still kind of working on getting things situated and set for that. Yes, I am very new. I have not created anything completely on my own yet without a guided hand. And what we're working on right now, we're at the... let's see. I'll open that up real quick. I want to say we're at the 2/3 marker for a course that we're doing. This is... Here, let's maximize this so I can see more about it. Yeah, we're on section 11 of 18 sections, so we're doing pretty darn good. I guess we're a little bit above halfway. This is a lecture that was put together by, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting his name right now. James Doyle? Does that sound right? Why doesn't it show who the creator of it is?
So with our shop system now created, we're going to move on to the next.
Anyways, yeah. So we're doing a course. I want to say James Doyle. I'm really embarrassed that I don't know his name, and I didn't review that before I started the stream. But I do want to make sure that what you know is what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on that. So the video is going to be playing at various points in the background. I'm probably not going to show what he's doing on screen. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't want to mess with any copyright infringements, but you will be able to hear the audio, and if something looks like it's important enough that I should show it as we're kind of going along, I definitely will. But if you have fun checking this out, and if you are interested in game development yourself, I would say that he's put out some really good courses. This particular one is the Unity 2D RPG course. And yeah, there was one section where I really had to problem solve myself to figure it out, just because some of the things that he was doing with an older version of Unity just were not working anymore. But that's part of the learning experience. That's part of figuring these things out. And I have enjoyed that challenge. But yeah, so for our first few streams, guys, we're going to be wrapping this up, and I've made it a point that once I finish this 2D RPG guided lecture, I'm going to start working on my own thing. I don't expect it to be anything super fancy. I don't expect it to be a game that I plan on releasing on Steam or anything like that, but it'll be a really good first step into the big boy pool for me, if you will. Because so far the only things I've done are guided lectures. I have not tried to bring that knowledge into my own stuff. So now we get to, why am I doing this as part of our streaming? Why am I streaming this? Well, I've been on this journey now for about 2 years, if we're really looking at it objectively. Have I spent exactly 2 years developing and learning? No. There have been plenty of moments and plenty of time between things getting too busy with life and me just not putting forth the amount of effort that is necessary to force myself into being exposed to it a little bit every day. So there's been lulls, there's been gaps, there's been points of time where I haven't done a lot. In fact, it's been about 2 months now since the last time I even touched this particular... Actually, has it been 2 months? Let's look. Actually, it's probably been closer to 3 months, because I was working on a state machine on my own 3 months ago, and that was the last thing I was doing. So yeah, it's been 3 months since I touched any of this. So it should be a little bit scary kind of getting back into it, reawakening all those little pathways in my brain as to things that I've already learned. But I digress. We're streaming this, and I'm going to be sticking to the stream to help keep me accountable to myself and, Willie, an audience. Having people watch me do this, whether they hate it, love it, or feel indifferent to it, it really gives me more of a reason to do this. Granted, I want to do this for myself. It's something that I do enjoy, but just like anything else that's outside of the routine, that's outside of, what I do in my free time for my hobbies, what I do for work, it helps to have a system of accountability. And it's a lot easier for me when I'm accountable to other people. I'm a small business owner. I've owned a couple different businesses over my time. And having to be accountable to other people is what gets me up and gets me moving and has allowed me to succeed enough to where I can be in a comfortable position and actually have some free time. Well, it's not really free since I'm doing it for this, but to have the time where I can make myself a dedicated stream time, where I can sit down and utilize time to learn, to educate myself, and to build on my skill sets. So, I am now accountable to you guys. This is our first stream. We're going to do this every Wednesday. I'm going to try to upload these to YouTube as well, just so that way if you can't hang out for the live stream, you'll at least be able to have access to it afterwards. Of course, at this moment, I'm talking to absolutely no one. I just like to hear myself talk, but, hopefully other people will be interested in the process, and maybe I can share some tips and tricks as we go along the way, how I learn specific things, how I set up my notebooks and various other things to keep myself moving forward. So thank you so much for hanging out for that long-winded introduction. I promise the rest of our streams and introductions won't take quite this long. And if you notice that my attention kind of keeps turning, I've got a whole bunch of monitors set up here. So right over here is where I will be able to see my chats and other alerts and things that are going on. Obviously, we have our main screen, which is the camera that you're looking at, so that when I'm focused on working, you see me looking straight on ahead. And of course, we've got our screen that's going to be showing us our videos that we're going to be learning off of. Let's see, is there any other housekeeping that we need before we get rocking and rolling? I don't think so. So I guess we're just going to dive right in. First things first, I have to finish opening up the rest of my scripts. For some reason, with this particular project, something weird happened where my solution file for this game does not want to open up properly anymore. So I actually end up having to completely shut down Visual Studio and then manually open up everything like this. It's kind of annoying, but I've gotten so used to doing it that It's just the way it is now. All right, you can see right here, an error was encountered while opening associated documents. That's actually probably from me having to force close the application. But I have tried so many different fixes. I have spent more time than I probably should have. This is time that I could have been using for game development in trying to figure out why that was bugged, why it was broken. It doesn't seem to affect my other projects, so it's just something that happened with this one, and it's just something that I'm going to have to deal with until it's done. Now, of course, if anyone else has encountered this error before and found a fix that worked for you, please, absolutely, chat me up, drop a comment, let me know what you did that worked, and I will absolutely give it a try, because at this point I'm beside myself, and if it ever happens again to one of my other projects, I would really love to be able to solve that. So, where are we at in our game? I mean, you can see there's a whole bunch of scripts here, right? We've done a ton of work. We've got our character controller. We've got a character that moves around. And the section that we just finished up is we were just setting up a shop that we could buy and sell from. And I want to say that we did finish it to its entirety. I'm going to try this real quick. Yeah, look at that. I can walk on the table. That's something that I'll have to mess with eventually. I think we can hit our E key. Yes, okay. Got health potion, mana potion. All right, all this still kind of seems to work. Let's see. We have 100 gold. Buy that. Now we have 0 gold. We have 1 extra potion. Sell that. We have 50. Sell that. We have 100. Can buy another. Now we're back to 5. Sell, 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 sell. Okay, we sold it all. We've got the 250 gold. Goes back to nothing. Yeah, all right. Looks like we did fix. Well, didn't fix. It looks like it's working. Okay, good. That's great. Just wanted to make sure of that because, again, it's been 3 months since I've touched this. We are now on to our quest system. So this is the part where we're going to build a quest system. So we can pick up quests, we can do the main quest, and we'll be able to track it and keep track of it in... probably should show you the little menu that we built as well. All right, so we can see our party, the items that we have, stats. There definitely are still some little things here and there that I'd like to fix, like when we first... Well, now it's fine because we've already done something, but when we first open up the menu... I guess it's when we first open up the menu completely fresh. Okay. Close there. So here we go, guys.
System that we want to add to the game, and that's adding quests in. So for this, I'm going to switch out to a different scene. We're going to leave this shop because we're not going to do this stuff in here. And we're going to switch back out to our town scene.
Okay. So we're going to go back to one of our previous scenes. My God. Let's see. Do we want to mess around in our first town? Not the starting area. Yeah, let's open up our first town. Okay. There we go. We'll zoom out. We can kind of see what we got going on here. Perfect.
There we go. And out here, this is where we're going to add in our quest stuff. So, if we want to keep track of quests, we're going to need a couple of things. We're going to need the names of some quests, and we're going to need to see if they're true or false. And then based on whether those things are true or false, we'll activate or deactivate different objects in the world. So say, for example, we wanted a quest with this little girl to go fight some kind of monster in a cave. What we could do is have, if we switch back to our countryside scene here, we can have a rock blocking off this cave here, for example, when the player starts. Then we travel over into the town, talk to the girl who activates the quest to go find the monster, and when that activates, that also tells the rock back at the cavern, okay, I should deactivate and go away so that the player can go in here and move on to the next stage of the quest. So that's on the basic level how quests can work, is activating or deactivating certain objects in the world to be able to let the player go to different areas or do different things within an existing area. So we're going to start that off by going into our scripts folder and create a new script that we're going to call new C# script called Quest Manager. And this is what we're going to use to control all our quests in.
All right. So we're going to make a new C# script. Real easy, just right from our script folder. We can do that. And this will be our quest manager. I do sometimes name things differently than... I don't want to move my notebook. I actually need that accessible to me. I do sometimes name things differently than in the tutorials, just if they make more sense to me. Alright, everything should be good there. I do have some extensions in my Microsoft Visual Studio that I've really enjoyed for coding. We're not going to dive into those too deep in this episode, but obviously if you do have questions on anything in particular, feel free to drop a comment or ask, and I'll address it as best I can. Again, I am very, very far from an expert on these topics, but, part of learning is being able to teach the subject that you're learning. So that's actually, that's kind of another bonus of doing this, is as I'm going along and learning this, and I'm kind of trying to almost reteach what it is that I'm doing for a video, which in theory will help solidify my own understanding of it. So nice little double whammy there.
Game. And we're going to add that in to our game manager over here.
Okay. Now this is always a little tricky. His version works a little bit different than mine. So when I'm editing my game manager, right, I need to make sure that these things are universal changes. So I'm actually going to open up the game manager inside of my prefab folder. All right. Okay.
Go here and have a look. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this. Actually, what we'll do is we'll just collapse the game manager for now, because we don't need to do anything else with him at the moment. And we're going to add the component Quest Manager.
All right, so this right here, we're just going to add
there we go.
The script that we just made as a new component.
And if we're going to keep track of the names of a bunch of quests, well, we're going to need a list of those quest names. So we'll say...
Now, if I do it that way, I just want to make sure, right? Because again, it's been 3 months. I need to make sure I do, in fact, remember these things. So I changed it in the prefab. So by changing it in my prefab, good. Now it's changed in my town scene. So let's make sure. This is our first town. If we go to our shop, that also has our game manager in it. Oh no, the essential loader is what will load the game manager. So if I do this, do not destroy on load, game manager, quest manager script right there. Okay, perfect. So we're good. We got that right.
Public string array called quest marker names, and then we'll create a public bool also to determine whether those quest markers are true or false. So we'll say quest markers complete, we'll call it. So a quest marker is basically a point that determines whether a quest, a certain stage on a quest is happening. So these quests will be something invisible to the player, but it's how we'll keep track of events and actions within our game itself. So with that in place, there's one extra thing we're going to add, which is we're going to make a static instance of this so that we can easily access it from other objects in the world. So public static quest manager called instance, and as always we'll set the instance equals this, and we'll just save this for now and pop back into Unity. So what we want to do is we'll add a short little list here of some names for this array. We're going to say 5 here, and we're going to leave the first.
Marker names. There we go. We're adding 5 little markers to our
First
array.
one blank, and we'll explain why that is in a moment. And then we'll add a few more. So we'll say fight the demon. Enter cave. We'll just add a quest test. These don't really have to be in any particular order for us to use them or anything like that. And save the world. Nice and simple. Nice, easy
Save
little
the
quest.
world.
So
Nice.
the important thing we'll want is we have these names of quests, but then we want to be able to keep track of whether they are true or false. And obviously in our game, we're going to want to make sure that this list here, the quest markers complete, we want to make sure that that is the same length as our quest marker names here. So to do that, we're going to go back into our script, and in the start function, we're going to say our quest markers complete equals new bool, and what we're going to do is set this new bool to be the length of our quest marker names. So quest marker names dot length.
Yeah. Okay.
Because obviously, generally speaking, if we go back into Unity for a second, when we first start the game, we don't want any of these quests to be complete. So it makes sense that when we first start, that all of our bools are false. So if I hit play here, we should see this will automatically go to the same length, and we have all of these here. So then we can...
All right. So just to kind of show you what he's saying, okay? So I set that to 0, right? But since the script, and it'll run, it'll set this to 5 to match that, and it didn't do that. What did I do wrong? Did I not save it? Quest markers complete equals new bool quest marker names dot length. Item saved. Okay, I did set that to 5. Oh, the clone. So that's not a big issue. That's just because I don't have... That's because I have the game manager in here. Right? If I removed the game manager from this, because we have the essentials loader, that's going to end up loading our game manager. Whoop. Alright, so this can be whatever number I want. So even if I set it to 10, when we load up, it's going to change. So 5, 5. Right? So that's cool. Probably should just delete the game manager out of there, though. Because now watch, right? I can just hit play. We're going to end up loading in. And now we don't have that silly little clone anymore. Oh, this is good. I'm remembering a lot of this, which is great. I would hate to think that taking that much downtime would have made it so I needed to relearn a whole bunch of things.
Create ways to keep track of these quests and whether they've been completed or not.
Fight the demon is complete. We can check that. Yes, no. Good. Rock on.
So now that we have the bools and we have the names here, what we need to do is actually create a way to be able to mark them true or false. And we also need to be, more importantly, able to check whether a quest is complete yet. So let's stop this here. Let's go back into our scripts. So we're going to need a couple of functions. We're going to need... First of all, we're going to need to check if a quest is complete. So we could create a public void check if complete, and then we would need to take in a string, which is the name of the quest that we want to check. So quest to check.
So he made a little error that he's going to fix in a
Open
second.
and close curly brackets here. So we could do that in here. But if we're going to check if something is complete, we want to know if
maybe I
that's
made
true
an
or
error.
false.
Oops.
So rather than it being a public void, we're going to make it a public
That's right.
bool, so we can know if it's true or false. And I'm just going to, just so we don't get this error here, I'm just going to return false at the end here. So that'll be our default. And then down here, what we're going to do is also create another public. This time we're going to create a public void for mark quest complete. So this is what we'll use to mark a certain quest as being done. And again, we'll say string quest to mark, we'll call it this time. Put our open and close curlies. And we're going to create a public void mark quest incomplete, just in case we want to deactivate a quest for some reason in our game. And again, quest mark, and open and close our curly brackets. Okay, so we've got these three functions. Now, there's one thing that all of these have in common, and that is that they want to check a quest by the string name. So they're all going to need to search through our quest marker names array, and basically we want to check and find the position of that quest by its name, and then in the quest markers complete, set that number to be true or false, depending on what we want to do here, or check if it's true or false in here.
So I can't.
So with that in mind, what we need to do is
why
we can create a simple function that will allow us to get the number of a quest so that we can return it and what it does over here.
Case
Okay, so
and hierarchy
for that,
and what this
we're
is.
going to say
I think it's because this is a function.
public int, because we're getting a number for a quest, get quest number, and that'll take in a string quest to find, and then we'll put our open and close curly brackets here. And what we're going to say is we're going to loop through the available quest markers. So we're going to say for int I equals 0, while I is less than our quest marker names dot length. We're going to increment I every time. So as long as that's true, loop through the array, and then if our quest marker names at position I is equal to the quest to find, so the name of the quest that we're trying to find, well, if that's true, then send out the number, so return the I value. And that's fine, but what if we get to the end and we haven't found the quest? Well, what we're going to do is say, at this point, return 0. So the reason we do this is we're going to assume that 0 always means there is no quest. And that's why, if we go back over here, we leave this blank. So we leave it blank, just in case someone...
Okay. So, I mean, if you didn't catch that, the reason that it's blank, the first one, is so that way we can set it that way.
Types in a, or well, I say someone who, when you're working on this game, just in case you type in a blank quest, it'll return this one as 0. And if we assume that anything that returns 0 is always a inaccurate quest, we can say, okay, well, we've searched and found this incorrect quest marker. So at that point, what we should do is we're going to add a debug dot log error. So we're going to say, hey, this is not the correct quest. So we're going to say quest
There we go.
plus the name of the quest we're trying to find.
Okay, so we're going to add in a debug log just so we can make sure that this is working the way that we want it to. Really, really useful tool.
Quest to find plus does not exist. Actually, we need to put some spaces before and after these so that it doesn't create one big long word there. So when we're looking at it this way, basically now we're saying, okay, well, if we're checking for this quest, or we're getting this quest number, if it's 0, that means we've got a problem. That's just how we'll look at it mentally ourselves as we're building our game. Again, this is something that doesn't matter to the players. This is something they will never see and deal with. It's only for your own testing and building of.
What is wrong here? Not all code paths return a value. I think maybe that makes sense. Like, I think it might be an okay error. Hold on, I'm just going to kind of go through this and look. Right, so public int get quest number. We want that as a string, quest to find. Yup. For, this is our for loop, so it'll go through. Close out, I++, if quest marker names, I equals quest to find, return I.
So, with that in mind now, what we can do is when we're checking if something is completed, we can say if the get quest number, so the function we just created, if that up here, based on whatever our quest to check is, so quest to check, if that is not equal to 0, well, that means we've found the correct number, because if it is equal to 0, that means we haven't found a valid quest. So if it is not equal to that, then we can check the value of it. So we can say return quest markers complete at position get quest number. So we can just quickly do this again. It's not too much of a... It's not a very high impact little function to do. So we'll just call that again and then return that number, or return the value of the markers complete at that number. So say for example we do a search for enter the cave, we check and see our quest number, so that will get it at, hey, it's position 2 in the array, so jump into the quest markers complete at position 2, and is that true or false? Well, we'll return that value. And then by default we're just going to return false, because we have to return some value, and we know that the only way we can get to here is if it's an invalid quest, so it is 0, and we will then return false. Okay, so for marking a quest complete, what we can do then is say quest markers complete at position whatever, so we'll say the quest to mark is what we want to get, so we need to get the quest number of that, so get quest number at position quest to mark, there we go. So when we have that value, well, we're setting this quest to be complete, so set that to be equal to true. Now of course what someone could end up doing is putting in the blank quest, or I say someone, again, you making the game, you could put in the blank one, and it would then set the value of the quest markers complete at 0 to be true, but that doesn't matter. We know that if we're trying to check that value, we will also always get it back.
What on earth? Likely harasser restricted. List viewers on. What is this? No. Well, looks like maybe we just got attacked by our first bot? Well, that's cool. Hey, moving on up in the world. Not published to checked. Let's see what these other things do. Oh. Alright, cool. Wow. That's pretty awesome. I'm so pleased.
Because false, no matter what. So then what we need to do is, in our mark quest incomplete, just copy the same bit of text, paste it in there, and mark it as false.
Simple enough.
So let's test this system out just to make sure it's working okay. So
Great.
what we'll
Let's
do
see if I
is go
screwed
to
anything
our
up
update loop. We're going to add an if input dot get key down key code dot, let's say, dot q for quest, and we're just going to say, first of all, we'll do a check if complete on what did we call one of these? Let's say we'll go with quest test. So we'll check out quest test.
We'll do Q. All right, we like
save
Q.
it and go back into Unity.
Oh, hang on.
Into
Sorry,
Unity.
back it up, buddy.
So we'll
I'm a
check
little bit
out
slower.
quest test.
Check if complete. Oh, it's going to run check if complete. Okay. So we're basically just setting this to run the function. So that's so remember how I said we set up the debug log error and why it's an important tool. So now in our update function, we're basically setting up so when we hit our Q key, it's going to check if the quest is completed. So it's going to run that function that we just wrote, and then it's going to return an error or not an error. And if it returns an error, it'll go to our debug log and help us figure out where that is. Right? Oh, this needs to be closed. This still... It's still not liking this, but why? Maybe it'll be fine in this. Not all code paths return a value. Well, I think that's the point, right? Like, I think we know that. Well, let's just continue
Save
on.
it
I might have to
and go
troubleshoot
back
this
into
on my
Unity.
own.
And if we hit play, actually,
Yeah,
wait.
okay.
What we'll do, because we want to be able to see an actual result for this, we'll debug.
Will that work? So it won't actually let me hit play because of that error. Get quest number. Did I? I feel like I must have done something wrong. Quest to find. Not all code paths. Okay, so get quest number. Get quest number. Get quest number. Get quest number. So maybe I messed something up in one of these. No, because then all of those become incorrect. What have I done messed up? No, well, that's right. Got the bracket open. Then quest marker names dot length. Oh, I see where I messed up. We have to return 0. Yes! There we go. So, I mean, it was exactly what it was saying the problem was, right? Doesn't return a number, all right? So we have a return false, right, for check if complete, but we've got nothing here. Okay.
This out, so we'll say debug.log.
Debug.log.
Whatever the value is of this.
Wait, really?
So it'll basically tell us if it...
No, yeah, I was about to say, that doesn't look right, buddy. Should go on the inside of the close.
True or false. So save this, go back in here again.
Save.
Press play. Now obviously it should tell us that it is false. So we'll see if I hit Q now. There we go. We get a little thing saying false down here.
Right, okay. So we're looking at our console. Nope, I'm not getting anything that says false. What did you do that I didn't? I wasn't entirely paying attention.
Press play. Now obviously the value is of this, so it'll basically tell us if it's true or false. So save this, go back in here again.
Set something here.
Press play.
Okay, so let's set this to 0. No, because then that shouldn't matter. Maybe? I don't actually understand how we are supposed to return the false.
Play. Now obviously it should tell us that it is false. So we'll see if I hit Q now. There we go. We get a little thing saying false down here.
I'm an idiot. Needed to hit the Q key to test it. False, false, false. Yes, okay.
So if I just mark this as
Yeah, I'm
true
rusty.
here, so it's element 3 is quest test, and we'll try.
Okay. So now we're going to test the rest of it. Game manager. Set that to 5 just so that way it's open.
Again,
3.
hit Q, and this time it says, hey, it's...
Okay, so now because this is complete, right, it's not going to return 0. Nope, still getting false. Why am I getting false? Oh. True, true. Okay. There we go. All right, we're all good. Took me a hot second.
It's true. So it's definitely checking the correct one first. So let's also make sure that we can mark quests as well. So let's mark quest complete will be, we'll mark the quest test complete as well.
Key down.
And we'll also mark one incomplete. So mark quest incomplete. Which one will we do? We'll do the fight the demon, for example.
Okay. So I didn't entirely understand what I was doing. Now, right, we're checking the string. Checking the string quest test. Which is why, inside this, it's specifically checking element 3. So that's why we were getting false, right? Until this was checked, then we got the true. Bam.
Fight the demon. Okay, save this, jump back over, let it compile for a second.
And then test fight the demon. It's important that it is spelled exactly the same way. So that's something important to note, right? When you're writing out your, or you're looking for strings, it has to match. If it does not match, obviously, it's going to return false. So we'll mess around with that to give you an example. Woo! That was a violent sneeze. All right, we're good.
And what I'm going to do is play the game, and I'm just going to mark the fight the demon one true, just for us to be able to test it. And if I hit Q, there you go. You can see first.
Okay. So we're looking at our game manager now, and if we hit Q, all right, it's going to mark element 3 for quest test, and now it's going to find that. So the reason the first one was false is because it's checking fight the demon, or it's unchecking fight the demon. If we physically select that, it's going to uncheck that and then check that. Oh, so that's why it's false at first, because this wasn't checked. It's checking if it's false first, then it's checking it. So again, if I uncheck that, we're going to get false again. Yup. And then it's remarked. Now we get true, just to show that that's exactly what's happening. False, uncheck, false, uncheck, false, leave checked, true. Perfect.
First of all, it checked that element 3 was false, then it turned element 3 to true, and element 1 became false. So perfect. Our little functions are working just the way we want them to, but of course it's all well and good for us to be able to change these values. We want to see how we can make them have an impact on the game itself.
Fantastic. Moving right along.
So we want to create some objects that we can activate or deactivate based on whether a quest is complete. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to grab a couple of placeholder objects. So go into our art and I'll go into the GFX folder and we'll grab this objects padded. I'm going to open this and I'm going to grab just this.
All right. Art, GFX, there we go. Another reason why I enjoy the guided lessons, especially if they include all the assets for you as part of the lesson, it saves you a whole bunch of time. I mean, granted, now you could utilize free asset packs while messing around and stuff like that, but I feel that this is probably the quickest way to learn as a beginner, right? Because you have everything done for you, and then it's just presented in a step-by-step. But once you've progressed beyond that, then that's where it becomes important to start to make your own things. Be that assets, so you can learn how to make sure they're sized appropriately, uploading appropriately, and fitting in how you need them to. And then, of course, setting up your scripts to flow and bring you from one phase to the next. Kind of lost my train of thought there. That's fine.
Click and drag it into our scene.
Objects padded. And we're looking for the chest.
And I'm going to change the sorting layer to background so that we...
Oh, there we go. All right. Oh, we put that there, but look, it's not there. That's because... Boom. Why did he put it to sorting layer background?
And then we're going to create an object to hold this. So I'm going to right click and create an empty. We'll just drop it into the scene. And I'm going to rename this
Creating empty object.
to be quest object, like so. And I'm going to make sure that our image is a child of that. And we'll see why we're doing that in just a second. Actually, no, we won't see. We'll just discuss. What we're going to do is create a script that controls whether this object is active. And we're going to add it onto the quest object here. And then that will activate or deactivate this object.
So, as a way to test out whether or not the script is working now with an object or a physical object, and the reason that we made it a child of the quest object empty is that if it turns off, we should be able to just completely turn off the child object within it without affecting anything else that's attached to it. So let's say if it has a rigid body that you can't move through, we turn it off and now you can move through it. It's not there. It doesn't appear to be there. But obviously it can be turned off and on like a light switch.
Object. Depending on whether the quest is complete. Now the reason we don't do it on the object itself is if we, for example, want this object to be inactive at first, and then when when the quest is complete, this object becomes active. So say, for example, you want this chest to only appear when someone completes a quest. Well, then what if we have it deactivated, we won't have a way of being able to check if this is active in this, or check if this should come to life, because the script will be deactivated too, and the script won't know to do anything. So, with that in mind, then we're going to make this a holder object for it. And now we need to actually create the script that we're going to use. So, we're going to go into our scripts folder, add a new C# script that we will call quest object activator. And we're going to add that to the quest object here. So, I will...
Okay, let's see. So we want to add our script to the actual object, the empty object, as opposed to the visual, right? Because that's what I was just talking about before. If we end up attaching the script to this, when this is turned off or on, then the script goes bye-bye. It's also turned off and or on. But attached to this object, it will be on all the time or off based on other parameters. Right. Oh, did I do that right? Yes, that's the script that I want.
Just click and drag. Yes, I dragged the right one. There we go. And we'll open this up then. So, if this isn't, if we want to activate and deactivate that object, well, we're going to need to obviously have a reference to that. So we'll say public game object.
Oh, well, look at that. We got another bot attack. Hey, that's great. Hey, look, you know, we're 53 minutes into this stream, and we've had 2 robots. No humans, but 2 robots. That's wonderful. That's great. We love it. Best viewers on, cheap viewers on. Fantastic. You know that I do enjoy the fact that the auto mod system is catching that. Whether that's Twitch's auto mod system or if it's my Stream Elements bot that's taking care of that. I mean, either way, that's great. I like it. Very cool. Kind of wish those were real people, but yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's great. Okay, back to work.
To activate, we'll obviously need the name of the quest we want to check. So public string quest to check. And we'll need a bool variable, so a public bool that we'll call active if complete. So this is basically saying, should this object that we want to activate, should it be active if the quest is complete or not? So that's our way of checking, hey, if we complete a quest, do we want this object to appear or disappear?
Okay.
So with that in mind, we're also going to add a new function down here. We're going to create a public void check completion. Check completion.
That's right. Okay, it is coming back to me
And
now.
this
the reason that these are capitalized versus the
going
others
to
is because
check and
they
see
are functions.
whether
We're
a quest is
making
complete. So what we can do is say if our quest manager dot instance dot check if complete. So check if this quest is complete, and the quest we want to check is our quest to check up here. So quest to check. So if that is complete, if that's true, then we want to set this object to activate. We want to say object to activate dot set active, and whether we want to set it to be true or false is based on if active if complete is here. So we'll say active if complete. Okay, so we have this function to check if a quest is complete, and when do we want to call this into action? Well, we want to call it once the game starts, and we also want to call it whenever a quest is completed on our quest manager. So how can we do that? Well, first of all, we want to call it once things start going. So we could call it in our start function here, but we also know that the way things are instantiated into our game, sometimes we can end up in a situation where, for example, our game manager doesn't exist, but then it's created into the scene, which brings in the quest manager attached to it, obviously. And then at that point, perhaps the quest object has already run and checked. So we don't want to do that, so we're going to add a little way to get around that. So we've shown a couple of other ways to do this as well, but we're going to add another little way in here. We're just going to create a public, or sorry, no, actually we'll create this private bool initial check done. So we'll say initial check done, and in the update loop here we're just going to say if not, oh no, why is that filter mode? If not initial check done. So if we haven't already done the initial check, then straight away say initial check done equals true, and check completion. So we're doing our little check down here, and we're also setting this to be true, so it won't run again. It'll only do this check once in the very first frame. So it'll be after the start happens, but it'll wait till the first update frame happens. So start obviously always occurs.
Right, so just to kind of reiterate what he said, but explain it differently, because obviously we're very far along in the lesson. So with your start functions versus your update functions, right? The start function is going to run once, right at the start. Your update function is going to check frame by frame to run. So what he was saying is, if we set up this initial check to happen during the start function, there are instances we can potentially run into where it may already have existed and run before we enter into the play, right? So it won't run again because it's already run. But if we set it up in the update instead, that's going to allow us to check regardless of whether it's done the start run or not. So definitely just a way to kind of get around some things like that. There's definitely reasons why you would put specific things in the start function versus the update and vice versa. And for something like this, it makes sense to just easily avoid a potential game-breaking bug. Obviously, in a perfect scenario, we could have it situated to just run in the start function and we'd never have to worry about it. But, you know, kind of looking back to this, right, where I said, oh, you know, we've already got our game manager in this scene, but when we load in, it creates a game manager. So, for instance, with that in mind, the game manager being there, that would have already run before we then loaded into the scene and then had the game manager created on top of that. Okay? Pretty sure
So
that's exactly what he was
it'll
saying.
wait till all the other objects are instantiated, and then they'll get their start time, and then the first update will happen. So it's kind of an extra way of making sure that this happens after every other object has been loaded in at the start. Okay, so
Sweet. Yeah, this sounds like I got it pretty
with
much
that
right
done,
on the nail.
let's
Right on
go
the nail, right
ahead
on the head. Nail on the
and
head.
check this
Head on
out.
the
So
head.
if we go back into Unity, now obviously I said we need to make sure that that happens when quests are completed as well, but we'll worry about that in a minute. We're first of all going to say this quest object, we're going to base it on quest test. So whether quest test is true or false.
Okay. So same thing like we're looking for the string, right? So quest to check, we have to make sure that the string matches exactly. So we're going to do the quest
And we're going to say
test.
active if complete. We will set that to be, we'll leave it as false. So what we can do then is, obviously at the moment if we press play, when we go to the game manager, these are all set to be false by default. So we can't really check if they get activated as true. So our quest object can't be activated because it's already done a check. So even if I go to the game manager and I go now and set quest test to be true, that's no good to us. But what we can do is deactivate this object, press play, and now when we go to the game manager and mark this as true, this object is coming into the world, so we can hit play. Oh, and we haven't assigned the object. Oh, well, that would have worked nicely first, but we hadn't assigned our object in there. So now we can press play.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of show you what was just happening there, right? So we've got our quest object. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set that. So this is the object to activate. And then we're going to turn the quest object off. So now all of this is completely inactive, right? So now we hit play. That's inactive. It's still inactive. We're in play. We can go to our game manager. Now we can set this to true, right? So quest test, true. And now when we turn this back on, why did that not turn back on? No, I think I did something wrong. Well, I know I did something wrong.
Again. Try this again, mark it as true, and activate the object. And there you go. So you see, we activated the object, but the child object got deactivated. So that's why we can't see it in the scene, because it checked the quest and it correctly deactivated.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't do anything wrong. That was correct, right? Okay. So the object is off. The quest object itself is also off, but it's supposed to be. Right? Yeah. So turn this on. Set that to true. And now that won't turn on. But if we turn that off, set this to false, now it should turn both of them on. No? Well, then I guess I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand what you're getting at.
So let's do it again and just make sure if we mark this as true, everything works the way we want. Press play and go to our game manager, mark this as true, reactivate this.
Okay. Now again, I still did everything right. I didn't. I'll show you what I mean. Okay. True. Still off. Active if complete. This is complete, right? What the heck? Huh? Got the correct object. Spelled right, quest test.
And there we go. This time the chest became active.
What the heck? Sorry, we're gonna have to go back.
Okay, so we can make this object be activated or deactivated.
No, we can't, because I clearly did something wrong.
So we want to create some objects that we can activate or deactivate based on whether a quest is complete. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to grab some...
Alright, so out of it, that does activate it. What? 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 Okay. What did I mess up? But now it's just doing that indefinitely? So even if that's off, it's still loading. Interesting. But, alright, let's see if we can break it again the same way that we did. So, sorry if this is a little tedious back and forth. I really want to fully kind of understand. Alright, so we mark that. We run it. Okay, so now it's broken. So that's checking for the update. But, even if we turn this on, it still shouldn't work, right? Okay, correct. Because I guess it's already run, even if that turns off and on. Shouldn't that rerun the update, though? Like, it should, right? Oh, initial no? I guess this would need to loop. Alright, yeah, because this only runs if the initial check is not done. So once the initial check is done, kind of similar to void start, it's not going to run again. Alright, so I do understand now why I can break it and not unbreak it, and why I can unbreak it and then not break it. Because it has already run. It either runs broken or it runs complete. Can't change it because this is only happening once, even though it's happening in the update. Okay. Happens on activation of the object, and then it has run. That has happened. Okay. Cool. Cool. Sorry, I wanted to be certain that I understood what was happening. I didn't want to just be like, oh, well, I mean, it's working, cool. I needed to understand why it was working and why it wasn't.
Based on the quest. But we also really want this to happen when we complete a quest. So let's go back over to our quest manager script. And what we're going to do is...
1 second. Okay.
Down the bottom here, we're going to create a new public void update local quest objects. And we're going to open and close curly brackets. And what we're going to do is call this function after any quest has been marked complete or after it's been marked incomplete. Cool. So what this function is going to do is basically look for any objects that are active in the scene at the moment.
Quest marker complete. Oh wow, I totally missed when he did that. However, he also did not close those. No, wrong. Closed. Right? Update local quest objects.
And set them to be true or false based on... Oh, we need to hit our semicolon here. Based on whether their quest has been complete. Oh, we didn't put a semicolon there either. That would be handy. Okay. For this, if we're going to need to find every object in the scene that has this script attached to it. So how we can do that is, well, first of all, we're going to create an array of those objects. So we're going to say an array of quest object activators that we'll call quest objects. And we're going to set that to be equal to find objects of the type quest object activator. Okay, so that will find all the objects in the scene that have the quest object activator script attached to it. So at the moment, that will find this one object that we have in the scene.
An error was encountered.
And then what we're going to do is...
Okay, we've got the array. Quest objects equals... Cannot implicitly convert type. Quest object activator. He doesn't seem to be throwing an error. Do I need to do quest, or do I need to do by type? Find object of type.
Loop through that array as long as it's larger than 0. So if our quest
See if
objects...
maybe going further fixes it because it's
length.
looking for something.
Oops. Dot length. That should be a capital L. There we go. Dot length is greater than 0 because if we don't have any quest objects in the scene, well, there's no point in doing this for loop. So if that's true, well then loop through the array. So for int I equals 0 and I is less than the quest objects dot length I plus plus, and then what we'll do is on that particular quest object at position I, we want to call the check completion function. So that will jump into each one by one. It'll check its completion, so it'll jump into the quest manager and check if it's complete. And it'll
No, it still didn't fix
update
itself.
the results for us. Okay, so let's...
Did I accidentally skip a lesson? I've done that before. No. This is for completing quests. We did the activating objects.
A couple of objects is coming into the world, so we can hit play. Oh, and we haven't assigned the object. Oh, well, that would have worked nicely first, but we hadn't assigned our object in there. So now we can press play again. Okay, so let's pop back into Unity and see.
Cannot implicitly convert type quest object activator to quest object activator. I spell something wrong. Do I have a case where it should not be cased? Oh, okay. Silly. Needed find objects of type, not find object of type. Okay. So I still don't entirely... Let's see if we can figure out what this is telling us. You cannot implicitly convert type So is that erroring just because it's a singular? Convert type. Because I guess in this it's looking for multiple? I mean, either way, it was the incorrect case and tense. All right. I think we can be okay with that as an explanation.
Okay, so let's pop back into Unity and see this in action. So we have our quest object here, and it's at the moment is marked to disappear this based on quest test. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this guy, and I'm actually going to deactivate this object. So we're going to set it to be deactive, and we're going to say active if.
Okay. So we have copied it. But we're now going to deactivate active if complete.
Complete. So we can then click and drag this object over to here. What we should see is, for all intents and purposes, this quest jump or this chest jump from one position to another. So if I hit play now,
All right, so we want to see if that chest moves.
we can walk over here, have a look at it, and if I hit our generate our Q button to activate our quests, perfect. It switches.
Okay. It moved it. I guess I'm confused why it moved it over here, though. Why? Game object. Oh, that's why. Because that is where it is. So that's just a good reason why you should line everything up on itself. All right. So if we put this, we'll take these positions. And now everything's stacked on top of itself. All right? So we can do the same thing for this. Now, obviously, the easier way to do that would be before we linked them up, we reset the positioning. But when in doubt, this is one way that it can be done. There might be even an... Wait, what? Those are at the same, so why is that moving? Oh, okay. What? No. Those are where they're supposed to be. So why aren't you guys? Oh. What? That's still not right. What? Whatever. We've got the initial quest object here. And we've got the other. Quest object. Yeah. Yay. Okay. Messing around with that.
Around just the way we want it to. So that means our quest activation is going the way we want. We're completing the quests just the way we want them to, using our little keypad. But of course, we don't want the player to press just a random button to activate a quest. So we're going to go ahead next and create a way to activate quests in our game.
All right.
So we want to be able to mark a quest as complete.
All right, how are we doing on time? No, we're still pretty good. I think, though, for our first stream, that's where we're going to end it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It feels really good to get back into the swing of things. This was... I'm not gonna lie. I was actually I was pretty nervous about today because again it's been 3 months, and I was going pretty gosh darn strong leading up to those 3 months. And I was worried. I was really worried that I was going to completely forget what was going on. I was going to lose my workflow speed. And I have to say, I'm very pleasantly surprised. Right? I mean, I was actually able to complete a lot of the coding before he had finished it in the video, because I knew where things were heading. So that's good. To me, that says that I'm remembering how to do these things and why to do these things, what exactly their purpose is, their function, how they get things to be situated. So that helps give me some confidence that when I finish this lesson and I do kind of start working on my own thing, that I am going to be able to code through it and just kind of get things to function and work the way that I want. So, real quick, I do want to make sure that I get all of this correct with what this course is that I'm on. So I'm going to go back to my courses real quick. All right. So, yes, this is James Doyle. He's got quite a few courses out on Udemy. Udemy is the platform that I've been utilizing to educate myself through C# coding, Unity coding. I've got quite a few other lessons that I may mess around with in the background. I may do them on live stream too. But I definitely, moving forward, when we finish this, I do want to start kind of working on my own thing. So that way there's at least a project that is completely mine, that I am exposing myself to, that I'm stepping out of my comfort zone to, and I'm trying to get accomplished. This is James Doyle, and specifically the course that we are following along with is the Learn to Create an RPG Game in Unity. So definitely would recommend if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed his teaching style. Granted, you just kind of listened to it in the background. But yeah, it'll work out nicely for you. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. It really means a lot, whether you were hanging out in our live stream watching this or whether you're catching the replay on YouTube. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Ta-ta.